Hey BookTube. We're just gonna do a super quick, oh god, ignore the mess, check-in. It's just after midnight, well actually it's more like 1 in the morning, on the second day of Tome Topple. I had a very late start on my reading. It was terrible. I got it into my head that Tome Topple was starting on Saturday, not Friday, so I was still in the middle of Vasa in the Night on the day that Tome Topple started, and I also started school, and basically just a lot of things happened that prevented me from starting till very late. But I did finally get going. I read about 45 pages of Gathering of Shadows, V.E. Schwab. So far it's really good. It had a really strong beginning, possibly because I'm like already invested in the characters, but it's impressive because her other 2 books that I've read have had very slow starts. Like it's taken me a couple hundred pages to get into both of them. And so I'm glad to see myself gripped within the first 50 pages. I'm going to do a little bit more reading before I go to bed tonight so I can catch up. I have to read, well, I have 3 books on my Tome Topple TBR, and like, I'm really going to try to get those read. But then I also had American Gods come in from the library, so I'm also going to try to get that read before the end of Tome Topple. 4 books, that would be about 2,400 pages total. That might be a little ambitious, but we shall see. Anyways, these aren't going to be daily check-ins. Maybe they will. Maybe they will if my reading pace is like really impressive. We'll see. Talk to you later. Alrighty, it is the end of day 2 of Tome Topple, round 3. And I'm on page 192 of Gathering of Shadows. I'm estimating that's like 40% of the book. I didn't get as much reading done as I had kind of planned to, just because I was doing a lot of other things. I think I filmed 4 other BookTube videos. I'm also doing Camp NaNoWriMo. So just like, I had a lot of things to do. So I got a lot done. I did get about 100 pages read. I'm going to read at least another 100 pages before I go to sleep. I don't know. We'll see. It's still pretty interesting. Still liking it more than book 1. And it kind of just dawned on me that I need to reserve book 3 from the library because it's out. Because I definitely want to know how this series ends. Okay, so it is like 1 in the morning of day 7 technically. So day 6 of Tome Topple just ended. I haven't really been vlogging just because I haven't had any updates. I mean, I did finish reading Gathering of Shadows. So that was my first tome. That completed the adult challenge and read a book in a series. And that's about 512 pages read. But then I kind of took a day off. I went back and forth whether or not I wanted to read Saga Volume 6. Not part of the challenge, just like as a brain break. But I ended up reading a bunch of Harry Potter fanfic instead. I mean, sometimes you just need to do that, you know? And then that was like, gosh, I don't know. That was literally the day after whatever the previous day of this vlog is. I don't know. I don't remember. Day 3. Day 4. Probably day 4. Then, so I think I took day 5 off. No, that must have been day 4. Like I finished that book in like the wee hours of the morning on day 4. And then I took the rest of day 4 just off. I didn't really start anything else. And then day 5, I started my second tome, which is The Amber Spyglass. And I've been reading this day 5 and day 6. And I'm about 160 pages into this. Again, this is actually almost the exact same size as Gathering Shadows. It's like 519 pages this edition. I meant to be halfway through this already, but I'm gonna definitely read a couple hundred more pages before I go to bed. I'm not gonna say I'm struggling to get into it just because I'm not. It's a middle grade and Philip Pullman's writing is really polished, so it's not like it's difficult to read. I'm not as sucked into it, or I'm not as gripped by it as I was with The Subtle Knife. Like The Subtle Knife, man, it had a really sort of action-packed first chapter with introducing Will Perry. And this has had some action, but this book has so many more points of view. So obviously, like the Golden Compass, we really only have Lyra's point of view. There's a couple little snippets from some other people, some adult points of view, but they're very small and also very short. And then in The Subtle Knife, we mostly had 4 points of view. So we had Will and Lyra together and separate. And we had Seraphine and Pecola's point of view, and we had Scoresby's point of view. I would have to sit down and count all the points of view in this book. There are a lot of points of view in this book. And every single chapter is a different point of view. Sometimes the chapters have multiple points of view. And it keeps jumping around so much. Like, I'm trying to think, even Will's point of view, we've only had, I would say we've had the most from Will, but even his point of view, it's only a fraction of these 160 pages. It's just harder to, like, I'm not a huge fan of multiple points of view. I really like single point of view. And I don't mind 2 points of view if you have 2 really strong main characters. But I think after that, it starts to be a bit much. The Subtle Knife was probably as many different points of view as I would, like, choose to read voluntarily or, like, say I would want to read. I'm talking about points of view, like, really long time. But let's just consider this my catching up because I didn't vlog for a couple of days. I'll just ramble about the Subtle Knife for a little, or I'll just ramble about the Ember Spyglass for a little bit. But there's so many different points of view in this that it's not gripping me. Because I just feel like I'm jerked around a lot. Up until this point, like the last chapter I read, something actually really happened. But prior to that, I felt like there was just like a lot of pieces being maneuvered into position, which was kind of like, okay. I don't know. I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying it didn't grip me in as quickly as the Subtle Knife did. The Subtle Knife, from chapter 1, I was like, seatbelt buckled, ready to go. I was hooked on that one so quick. And I would say The Subtle Knife is probably one of the best second books that I have ever read. It was a really solid second book in my opinion. Unless you hate Will Perry. If you don't like Will Perry, then you wouldn't like it. But I mean, as long as you like the 2 kids, then like it's a really good second book. I'm definitely going to try to have this done. Today's Thursday. So I'm definitely going to try to finish this by Friday night. That's pretty reasonable. I'm going to try to get through American Gods next, just because it got checked out from my library, and I am really afraid that my checkout will expire before I finish it if I don't get it started. So yeah, that'll be the next thing I pick up. And I kind of have a feeling that The Girl Who Played with Fire is just gonna get backburnered again, because I really want to start reading Captive Prince. That also, I have to get that back I have to read that before my library checkout expires too. And so I'm just not feeling the Stieg Larsson. I'm just on such a really good fantasy kick that I don't want to, like, I've just been reading so many pretty decent fantasy books that I don't want to stop. I'm going to stop rambling and try to get some more of this read. As much as I complained, I do still really like it. I just don't know where he's going with it. And I really, really want to know where he's going with it. Also, there is a question. This book is 17 years old, so it's like, spoiler warning. Will is in Lyra's universe, but he doesn't have a demon, like a visible demon. His father, however, had a visible demon. What's the discrepancy? Why? I have to know if Pullman is going to ever address that, because it's a discrepancy that is bugging the shit out of me. Like, really, really bugging me. Okay, it is day 9 of Tome Topple. I'm being really sporadic with these updates, but whatever. So I finished my second tome for the challenge, and that was The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. I finished that actually yesterday, very late yesterday. And then I decided to read a short story that I got off NetGalley, which I will talk about in my wrap-up. It was not the best thing to pick up after The Amber Spyglass, which, The Amber Spyglass was good. It's definitely not my favorite of the trilogy. That remains The Subtle Knife. I think The Subtle Knife just has some really solid writing and really solid characterization. The Amber Spyglass was fine, but it really got lost, in my opinion. It really got lost in the number of points of view. I think there were a little bit too many points of view and jumped around a little bit too much. I feel like he probably could have shaved some of them out just because they didn't add to the big revelation at the end, and the quote-unquote big revelation really wasn't that big, and the fall of the Authority was really kind of anticlimactic. Like, Lord Asriel and Mrs. Coulter's fight with Metatron was really good, but then the Authority was kind of just like nothing. It was a really nothing encounter, which was probably to some extent the point, but since we were building up so much to it, it was kind of like, eh. And then it also came about 4 chapters before the prophecy was fulfilled, and the prophecy was so quiet and almost blink and you miss it that it was just, I don't know. It wasn't as satisfying as it could have been, I felt. And then, spoiler warning. Well, no, not spoiler warning. I don't know. The end itself was just like really depressing. Like, there's really no other way of putting it. So it was kind of just really, I mean, I cried and I liked it, but at the same time I was just like, oh, why is this the end? Like, why is it the end you chose? I don't know. It wasn't entirely satisfying. And in many ways, the ending really reminded me a lot of like similar fiction. It reminded me, it really, really, really strongly reminded me of the end of The Lord of the Rings and Frodo, the end of Frodo's story. It really strongly reminded me of that. And that's just like, I'm kind of glad I didn't read it as a kid now, because I really honestly did not need another one of those endings in my life as a child. So it was good. I think it could have been better. Subtle Knife is still my favorite. Those are my conclusions. No satisfactory answer about Will's demon. It's basically just ignored. You can extrapolate a sort of shoehorned explanation for why it occurred, but it's never addressed, and that's kind of a little irritating, but whatever. Like you can extrapolate why his demon does and does not appear when she does and doesn't. So, but it's just kind of like, ugh, what else? Oh, so those 2 books bring my total for this readathon up over 1,000 pages. I started reading American Gods very, very early in the morning. I'm on about page 52. So I think grand total, I've read about 1,080 pages for the readathon, which is not very much, to be honest, because it's day 9. So it's been a little over a week. I got a late start. I missed almost the entire first day of the readathon. And then I did take a break and read like a 24-page short story yesterday. So, I mean, technically I've read a few more pages than that during this span of time. So anyways, I'm reading American Gods, 52 pages into it. So I'm like about halfway through the 2nd chapter. Gonna work really hard to get that finished, probably by like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. I still want to try to tackle The Girl Who Played with Fire before the end of the readathon, but we'll see. Since I think it ends on Thursday, I probably won't get it done. So far, it's fine. The writing's pretty easy. Actually, the writing's like really easy and like quick to read. It's a little bit of it's a very like manly man beginning, because so far all of the characters are like manly men or whores. So I wouldn't say that I'm enjoying it. I'm like, that's just, I don't know. That's not my scene. That's not something I'm really interested in reading. So we'll see where it goes. I'm not going to hold my breath that there's actually a good female character. Like, from this auspicious beginning, I'm not going to hold my breath expecting a good female character in this. I hope to be surprised. This is not my first Neil Gaiman book that I've ever read. I've read Good Omens, which he co-wrote with Terry Pratchett. I freaking love Good Omens, but I've heard from a lot of Neil Gaiman fans that they don't like it. So I wonder, like, they think it's really oddly written or whatever. And so I always kind of wondered if Good Omens felt more like a Terry Pratchett book than a Gaiman book, and that's why Gaiman fans don't like it. And that's why I do like it. I've always had that kind of sneaky suspicion. Let me know what you think of, if you've read Good Omens, if you're a fan of Pratchett or Gaiman or whatever. Like, let me know what you think about Good Omens down in the comments below, because it's very close to being on like a top 10 favorite books for me. I really love it. I think that's it for this update. I've got cakes going in the oven that I've been baking. I need to do some writing for Camp NaNoWriMo. I'm about I think it's the 15th, so we're like halfway through the month. I'm almost halfway through my goal for Camp NaNoWriMo. So that's going really well. I have a really small, I'm only trying to write like 29,000 words this month, but I'm staying on top of it. And then I'm going to try to read maybe like another 100 pages of American Gods. Check back later. It's day 11 of Tome Topple. I think it's been like 2 days since my last update. Still reading American Gods. Not getting through it super quickly. I'm on page 250, so that means day 11 I've read just shy of 1,300 pages total for Tome Topple, which honestly is not that very much. 11 days, 1,300 words. That's barely more than 100 pages a day. If you follow me on Twitter, you've probably seen a couple of my like little Goodreads updates about American Gods. You know, it's fine. Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry for the camera bouncing around. It's well written. It's like competently written, but it is such a masculine narrative. Like everything about it, everything about the way it's written, all of the characters are so hyper masculine that it's just really not my cup of tea. Like there's no other way of putting it. It's gritty, and there's a certain gross aestheticism in it, and I just could not give less of a fuck about it or the characters or what's going on. All of the female characters are either crones, whores, or virgins, so it's got that trope too, which does not win at any points. Okay, so like I said, I'm 250 pages into it. My edition is like 630 pages, so I'm a little over a third of the way into it, and there's nothing about it that I can really recommend it. I think the concept is interesting, but I've seen the concept done elsewhere, and it is possible that this is like kind of the forefather for that concept, so that every other example of it I've seen in like books or television shows or movies, you know, they're all riffing off that idea, but that doesn't give this book a pass. Like, I'm not going to not be critical just because it was the first that did it, and I don't think it was the first that did it. The idea is good. I really don't like the characters or the execution or the plot. It's just kind of plodding along. It's not difficult to read. Like I said, the writing style is very competent. The writing's very easy to read, but that's about the only good thing I can say about it. I think I might take a break today and go read Saga Volume 6, which I need to read anyways, just because I'm more interested in that book. It looks like I will not be getting to The Girl Who Played with Fire this readathon, but I might read it still as like a palate cleanser after American Gods, just because I love me some Elizabeth Slander, and if there's any girl who can just wipe the bad taste of masculinity out of your mouth, it's her.